It was around the 17th of August, and walked into the house, and there were like 150 roughly birds dead. When the chickens started dying, the state vet actually saw this errand and said we can bury them here.
How many chickens did you have to bury here?
Over 6,000, 8,000. That's my livelihood, huh? Gone. Within a few days.
I'm on a farm in Benoni on the East Rand. It was once the home to 10,000 healthy egg-producing chickens until August of this year. That's when it was hit by a highly pathogenic variant of avian influenza. Within days, thousands of birds were dead and the rest had to be culled. Now, not one bird is left, and a once thriving business is destroyed.
𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗶𝗴𝗶 is a chemical engineer who left a secure corporate job to explore her passion for farming.
I had no prior experience with farming. I'm a Google farmer. I started with 10 chickens, literally in my backyard, and the idea was just to feed my family. And 10 chickens went to 100 chickens, and it took a neighbor who's a bodybuilder who actually showed me that it could be a business.
Wow.
And that's how I started.
Within a decade, Beverly was turning over millions of rands annually. She was thriving.
Look at you, all these chickens making music.
Then in August, bird flu began infecting neighboring farms in her area.
That day, as I walked in, I got a report that there's a lot of dead chickens. I immediately called the state vet to come and check what was wrong. They confirmed it was avian flu, and basically we just had to cull everything else that was left. We are disposing of even the eggs because we don't know if they are infected. It was just a shock when it happened.
Beverly is one of 112 farmers affected by the worst outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza in South African history that has brought the industry to its knees. 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀 is from the South African Poultry Association.
The consequence of the disease is dire, and we had phone calls of very emotional farmers at the brink of losing everything they've got. Every single morning we will wake up with new farms being diagnosed with the disease. It was like a 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶𝘀.
Just like COVID-19, avian influenza is a viral disease. Previous outbreaks were due to the H5N1 strain, which hit coastal farms in March. Then in May, things deteriorated when a new virulent strain called H7N6 began spreading through the densely populated farms of Gauteng. H7 is a silent killer that infects chickens long before they show symptoms. This incubation period can last up to 2 weeks, and all this time, the infected birds shed the virus. That's the reason for the uncontrollable spread that's decimated farms in the region.
Normally we could contain the disease, but this time around we believe that it might be windborne or dustborne. Farmers actually did a lot in terms of biosecurity, and they still couldn't contain the disease.
Astral is the largest chicken producer in the country. On one of their farms in Standerton, Mpumalanga, they showed us the extreme lengths they go to prevent disease-causing germs from entering or leaving their facility. These are standard biosecurity protocols they practice every day.
This virus is highly contagious. When we arrived here, I had to get undressed. I left my private clothes in the restroom. I got dressed in red overalls, whereafter I had to take a full shower, and then I got dressed in these blue overalls. And despite these stringent biosecurity measures, the virus still managed to make its way onto the facility.
Once avian influenza is detected, there is no way out. All the birds in an infected chicken house must be culled. It's a grim task that still haunts Astral's group vet, Obed Lukele.
What do you feel like now walking through here and seeing this place so lifeless?
In my almost 17 years working with chickens, I've never experienced this. It's completely unusual, but it is also devastating. You wake up one day, you have to go and cull those birds, and it is not mentally good for us. People broke. You really break down and cry. You feel very helpless, and I do not want to do that again in my life.
The disease also threatens the local economy. Astral is one of the biggest employers in Standerton. Apart from the farm, they also run a processing plant. The scale of production is massive, and many jobs hang in the balance because of this epidemic. To make matters worse, independent farmers face financial ruin because there is no safety net, like elsewhere in the world where farmers are compensated for birds they cull. Legally, it should be happening in South Africa too, but it's not.
The Department of Agriculture specifically said that they do not have the money to reimburse farmers. And the farmer is really left to his own devices.
To fill up my 2 houses, I need over R1 million. And I don't have money like that lying around. So without government compensation, there's no way that I can start.
Some years ago, the government celebrated Beverly for her entrepreneurial success. But now, in her time of need...
You were mentioned in a budget speech by Minister Ibrahim Patel.
Yes! I actually thought maybe they'll come back quickly. He did. But I was hoping that they'll come back quickly and assist us. But I haven't had anything from anybody.
In the meantime, government announced they're looking into a relief package for affected farmers. The details are yet to be provided.
This is not about the farmers. This is about food security for the people of South Africa.
With over 10 million birds lost so far, South Africa's staple protein has become scarcer and pricier. While the rate of infection has declined, that's because there are no more birds left to infect. Many farms stand empty and the outbreak is far from over. 𝗶𝗵𝗶𝘀, Astral's breeder manager responsible for dozens of farms in the region, is waiting on tenterhooks for the only thing that can turn the tide, a vaccine.
There are farms where they repopulated, then they still get affected. So you see, then it's double loss. So rather safeguard by doing what? Bring the vaccine, vaccinate, put the birds on the floor. Then you know for sure you're not going to be hit by the same strain again. That would be much more better.
Walking through this empty chicken house is sad and eerie, and the only way to bring it back to life is to vaccinate. But it remains to be seen whether this will happen sooner rather than later.
While vaccines exist for the older H5 strain, one for H7 must still be developed, and just like COVID, must undergo rigorous testing before being approved for use in South Africa, a long process.
It will take between 2 and 6 months before we will have the vaccine available. Unfortunately, it will not be available for this outbreak that we currently experienced, but certainly it will help us prevent us getting into the same situation that we are now.
That's 6 more months of fear and uncertainty, and even if the outbreak is contained, another 18 months for the industry to recover. Yet the one person who has every right to be cynical still has faith.
It will happen. The vaccines will be approved. Other countries are actually vaccinating. So it should happen in South Africa as well. It should happen. It must.
If we don't get the vaccine approved, where will you be this time next year?
I'd probably go back to starting with a few chickens. And I'll fill up 1 chicken at a time, because I cannot let the thing go down. This is a passion for me. It's no longer a job. It's a passion. Somebody needs to pay school fees to make sure that we are food secure in the country. And if I don't do it, who will do it?